And I'm with Loudon Habitat's Tools for Life, our virtual workshop series. And today's topic, remodeling basics, what you need to know before your remodel begins, is so timely. As COVID-19 has so many of us spending a lot more time at home, maybe we need to find a place in the house for online school. Maybe we need to update that outdated kitchen that is now driving us crazy. Maybe you've got unfinished basement space and you just really want to be able to spread out. Today's topic is going to help you with that. When we talk about remodeling, it does create a lot of panic and anxiety because we just don't know where to start. So for today's workshop, we are going to talk about how you plan for what's ahead when you're going to be doing a remodeling project. And here with us today to share his expertise on this topic is Matt Bowe of Matthew Bowe Design. Matt's company is Northern Virginia's premier custom home builder. They design and build custom homes and custom home additions. They work from vision to concept to plan to construction. And also want to share that Matt is one of our wonderful volunteers for Loudon Habitat. He serves on our board as vice president. So hi, Matt, and welcome. We're so glad to have you here today.
Hi, Therese. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So we've got a lot of ground to cover in today's workshop. Some of our main points that we're going to try to answer your questions on is how the role of planning plays when you're doing a remodeling, how do you select the right contractor, and identifying any risk before you begin the process, your project. So let's get started. So our first question, our basic question is, what are the phases of a remodeling project?
Right. So from the homeowner's perspective, the first thing is to identify the need. And that might sound simple, but the reality is that remodels generally come out of a need. And oftentimes the home someone's living in is not meeting their needs. So it's really important to really specifically identify the need. What is it in your current home that's not meeting your need? Don't worry about finding the solution. That's your contractor's job. Just know what your needs are so they can come to you with solutions. Second step is selecting your contractor, and we'll talk about that. It's obviously the most critical step because it can either be a great experience or it can be a nightmare. And it's just so important to make that choice well, because they're coming in and they're deconstructing your home. Usually you're staying in there when it's happening. So you're going to be living with them essentially for the period of the remodel. And then you go into your design, planning and pricing stage. And that is really, for us, that is an extremely critical part of the project. And you want to make sure that that is a very thorough and robust project so that everything has been decided upon before construction starts. So then you just simply move into construction, and construction becomes about executing if the project's been well planned and well designed and thoroughly specified. And then when construction's finished, you get to enjoy, right? But all those steps before have to happen in order for that to be an enjoyable process to go through and a project that you'll enjoy, for years to come.
Yeah, I know I've had friends have, their kitchens done, and they got the kitchen, and it's a huge impact to your house. So you're right I smiled when you said you're going to live with your contractor. It's got to be someone you like and can work with because they're going to be around. So again, we talked, and you just shared about, planning is critical, and it's really an important requirement for a successful project, but often we don't spend enough time in the planning process. So why is planning important, and what do you recommend that a homeowner would pay close attention to during the planning phase?
Sure. Well, I mean, it almost sounds obvious, but it's amazing how often it does not happen. is a thorough planning process. It's usually because both the contractor and the homeowner are anxious to start getting the project going. And a good planning process takes time. And it's really important because I can't tell you how many ways something can go wrong if you just try to figure it out as you go, right? And we're looking at this cabinet plan here, and there's things like you have to look at how drawers in two different runs of cabinet could open up on each other and handles hit, right? So it could get down to that little detail, right? So it's really critical because if you take the time to plan and you really dive into the details, the things that often come up and are kind of classified as that was an unforeseen condition is really just it was an unconsidered condition. It's really easy to change things on paper before you start building, and it's also not that expensive to do it. It's really
Right.
expensive to do it on the fly. So like any project, if you step into any complicated, complex project without planning, you're guaranteed to have just a miserable time. You're going to go over budget. You're going to, the construction time is going to be extended, and you're probably not going to have a great relationship with your contractor. So it's very critical. Something we really focus on is planning, and then a little more planning before we ever think about starting construction.
Yeah, what great advice, right? Because you're right. You're anxious to get started, right? So, okay, well, let's just get going, right? And so you're right that planning, you could see where it seems obvious, but also that excitement about moving ahead shortens that stage of the process. Hey, I just want to throw out to anyone that's watching, if you have a question, please use the chat feature, and we'll be sure we send that to Matt so he can answer your questions. Okay, so the third question we had for you today is hiring a contractor. You're going to have a relationship with that contractor for quite a while. So what are some of the benchmarks that somebody engaging in a remodeling project should be using when selecting a contractor?
Sure. So this is a part where I really, I feel for clients, especially if they're not familiar with construction, because it's just so hard. There's a lot of trust you got to put in a contractor. And if you don't kind of know how to differentiate, and it can be challenging, right? But the first thing you obviously start with is reputation. So ask around, ask people who engage with contractors all the time, ask friends and family who have done it, and try to establish that the contractors you're considering, have a reputation. Some of that gets built out of, how long have they been in business, right? If you've been in business a long enough time, if you're a good contractor, that word is out there. If you're a bad contractor, that word's probably out there as well too. So spend the time and try to. I think it's not to say that new companies can't do a good job, but one of the things that can give you an added sense of surety is if that particular builder and his company and her company have been in business for a long period of time, and then check the references. Now, of course, most contractors, they're going to give you good good references, but at least for us, we listen, every project has bumps in the road, right? So to me, that's where a contractor would differentiate himself. And so we encourage our references to tell the clients about what was good and what were surprises or bumps in the road, and how did we handle that? Did we step up? Did we meet our obligations? Did we satisfy them? So really take time to call references and ask some of those difficult questions, Also ask the contractor to themselves, tell me a few times where, you dropped the ball and how did you take care of it for a client? I mean, again, every project is so complex that you've got to expect that, there's just going to be some glitches, and the good contractors meet those head on and go ahead and take care of it for the client. And then responsiveness. When you're calling the contractor, are they calling you back quickly? Do they have staff that can attend to your needs? Do do they respond to your emails? And part of that tells you that they actually they have enough people in place to service their clients, right? So if you're getting quick turnaround and you're getting answers quickly and they're thorough answers, you know your contractor has the resources to meet your need. If it takes days and he's telling you how busy she is, the question is, are they going to be available when it's time to do your project, and
Mhm.
they have the resources to do it quickly? And then, processes, systems, personnel, like I just referred to. Do they have a documented process to take you through from the first meeting to turning the project over to you, right? It should be organized. There should be a system in place in the company. They should be able to demonstrate that to you, explain how it'll move through the process, who you'll be dealing with at different times, what to expect as far as milestones and timeframes. And if that doesn't seem to be flowing from them easily, and it doesn't appear that they have a very well thought out, designed, established process, there's potential there for a rocky road.
Yeah, so you found a good contractor, you got good recommendations, and now we're going to talk about price, because I think for a lot of folks, they're making the decision because of the price and less about, what you just said in terms of picking a good contractor. So, and the other thing is that often it seems like it should be buying a carton of milk, right? Okay, carton of milk costs $2. Shouldn't be paying a whole lot more than that no matter where I'm shopping. So, people view this as kind of a commodity pricing. So, how do you evaluate price when you're looking at, maybe a couple different bids on a project?
Right. So if you're actually looking at different bids, the first thing you need to be able to establish that they're actually bidding the same thing, right?
Mm.
So in the instance of receiving competitive bids, everybody has to be bidding the same plan. So presumably the homeowner has plans at that time. If plans don't exist and you've had 3 or 4 contractors in and they're giving you pricing without plans, that's a very far less reliable comparison exercise to go through, because you don't know what each contractor has included. You only know if you've gone through or they've provided you a very thorough specification. So again, it's a really tricky process. Our clients kind of always want to know what to expect with their pricing. And I wish I had a book I could open up and say this project cost X, but every one of them is different. We do try to give them a realistic budget based on what they describe to us. And then as we work through the design and decisions are made and hard pricing's coming in, we're updating the client with that information. But if you're simply have asked 2, 3, 4 builders in for pricing, you're going to need to ask them to be very specific in what they're including so you can compare apples to apples. And because the opportunities for variances they're not infinite, but they're near infinite.
Right.
What cabinets are they using? What flooring are they using? What windows are they using? What have they assumed about your lighting budget, your plumbing budget, your appliance budget? What are all these assumptions? Oftentimes our clients are amazed when we actually take them through our process about how many decisions we take them through. And it's the comment is usually, I had no idea I was going to have to think about this many things, right? But if you don't think about them, the builder's going to think about them. But then the builder's building what he wants or she wants and not what you want, right? So specifications are critical. It's the only way to judge if the pricing you're getting is comparative. And that's not the only thing that impacts pricing. Again, what level of service is your contractor providing you? Do they have support staff? Do they have a site supervisor? Is it just your contractor and he's managing 2 or 3 projects at a time? So levels of service will impact pricing as well. And as the homeowner, you have to decide what level of service it is that you want for your project, right? So it kind of, do you want to go and get your car hand washed, or are you fine just driving through and, doing it, getting the automatic wash, right?
Right.
We can think of a number of other things where we decide levels of service. we want to just run in and get a quick burger? Or do we want to sit down and have a really nice meal and a knowledgeable waiter and those types of things? So it's important for the homeowner to know themselves and understand what level of service they expect and determine if that contractor or the contractors they're speaking to can give them that level of service.
So somebody's asking the question, when you're looking at contractors and price, is it fair to expect some type of a plan that early in the process?
Well, that's sort of on a contractor by contractor basis, right? So there are a number of contractors that will do a kind of a conceptual plan for you and put a budget together for you, and again, it's going to be very high level thinking. It's not the level of detail you need to actually build the project. So that is available for us as a contractor, and we're not the only ones. You know, we ask the client to make the decision to work with us before we start providing concepts and input and basically the knowledge that we trade in, right? And it allows us to focus. The reason we do that, and I think other contractors, is it allows a focus on the clients who have committed to working to the contractor rather than doing multiple free estimates and free concepts. And that's sometimes the reason you don't hear from your contractor is they're running around doing 1,000 free bids, right? So again, that's each contractor's decision, and it also is each homeowner's decision. So we, you know, if a contractor's been in business for a while and they're good at what they do, and you explain what you want, they're going to be able to give you a reasonable budget range that you should expect. And then once the details are worked out, there'll be some reconciliation within that range.
Right. Okay, great. So the question comes up, you know, about permits, and, you know, that can delay the process and make it longer. So when that contractor comes in and says, you don't need a permit for this project, we're all like, you know, as the homeowner, oh, good, that means it'll go faster. So talk about permits a little bit and why they're important.
Yeah, well, look, I think this is a place you need to be a stickler on, right? Because the only person that benefits from not pulling permits is the contractor, right? So there is, you know, the moment you move a light outlet, the moment you replumb a shower or a toilet, the moment you open a wall, start opening walls and things like that, and you know, you need a permit, right? It doesn't, it never hurts to have a permit. It's always, in my estimation, a benefit. Permits are not hard to get in our county. They're a couple of weeks for an interior remodel. And usually those are getting done while all the other pre-construction work is getting done. So yeah, I mean, for us, Jeepers, we always pull permits, you know, and unless we went to the county with it and they said, you don't need a permit for this, but that just doesn't happen, right? So, I mean, if you're changing out, you know, pulling one cabinet out and putting one in, probably don't need a permit. But the moment the moment you move or add an electrical, a plumbing, or an HVAC fixture, or any part of those systems, the moment you start any type of construction or demolition, you need a permit. You should just have one on your job. It's another level of protection for the homeowner to make sure that everything's being done to code.
And I guess it's important for the homeowner to see that permit, I guess, or just display it, or you're supposed to put it up somewhere? Or?
Yeah, so by law, they need to be posted and from a visible place as you approach the project. So, you know, it's in the front window or something like that.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the not fun part of remodeling. We've all either experienced or we've heard of those nightmare, you know, remodeling projects. You know, the kitchen got tore out and then, you know, 8 months later, there's still no kitchen in place. Can you share some of the pain points and risks that a homeowner could experience during a remodel, and you know, what causes them? How can we prevent those?
Sure. Well, I mean, I can look at the vast majority of them from our experience have to do they tie back to just a couple of causes. One is lack of planning. One is lack of capacity on the part of your contractor, and one is lack of communication. and almost all of them go into one of those three buckets, right? So we talked about starting with planning, right? So many times, delays and unforeseen issues are a result of just poor planning, right? And things that just were not considered or conceived of because you rushed right into construction. And then it's just, oh my goodness, we open up a wall and there's a column there, right? Where with a little bit of time and a little bit of evaluation about how this house is built, a knowledgeable builder will be able to determine where load paths are in the wall that have to have columns, even if you don't open the wall up. Like we can walk through a house and I can tell you where support columns are going to be based on how that house is built. I don't need to open the wall up to see them. So, but if I rush through and I just want to get you going and I figure I'll change order you for it because I didn't open your wall, that can happen. So, and over budget issues, right? They usually tie back to, well, that wasn't included in the contract. And the homeowner is kind of left with, well, I thought it was included. We talked about it, right? But there's nothing to refer back to where both parties agreed on what was included. But that is taken care of if the planning process, a set of specifications is developed, exactly what's being included, what type of hardwood, what rooms it goes in, what door hardware and handle sets you're doing, what is the trim profile I'm getting, what everything, all of that needs to be documented. If it's documented up front and the homeowner has seen it and the homeowner has approved it, and then that's what's been priced, right? That's what I referred to before. With a good planning and design process, construction becomes about execution, and you have taken off the table most of those heartaches, so those delays and those unknown conditions that create delays and budget overruns and that conflict with a homeowner. And then again, do they have the resources to start your project and advance your project every single day until they're done? Or are they 2 days a week here and 3 days a week over there, and they come back the following week, right? So it's about resources. So it goes back to a contractor who's well organized, who has a great planning process, and who has a communication process and communication system, hopefully some type of project management platform that they're running their project off of that you're part of. And these are the types of things, that a professionally managed project is able to really minimize the types of things that cause homeowners kind of all this pain during a poorly executed project. Now, now the other thing, especially with a remodel, right, and especially if you're going to live there, stuff happens. Stuff just happens, right? Maybe there's a wire that just some electrician ran in a wacky route that you would never have conceived of. And as you're demoing drywall, you cut a wire, and next thing, all the kids' game boxes are out, right? And there's a little bit of, so stuff happens. You have to sort of expect it. Again, it's a very disruptive process, and we're in your home where you're that's your place of respite and, shutting out the whole world, and now all of a sudden it's topsy-turvy. So, you have to expect a little bit of that, and hopefully you can share it with your contractor honestly, and they're going to make every effort they can to mitigate the impact they're having on your family life while the project is underway.
So what would be the best way, so as you're in the middle of the project, to communicate? So you have that conversation, hey, we discovered we got to do this wire, it's going to cost X number of dollars. Is that something that the contractor should be following up with in writing, or do you as the homeowner just send an email, hey, we talked about this today?
Yeah, so hopefully the homeowner is responding and not directing the process. If they're having to direct the process, there's a problem with the contractor. So the contractor's site supervisor should be identifying these, communicating it immediately with a homeowner, excuse me, and then reconciling, is there going to be, is this something that's on us, or is this really an unknown, right? So in the instance of cutting a wire, that's on the contractor. It kind of is. That would be a silly one to hand to the homeowner. But it's the key to all of these is if listen, this business for us is about solving problems, every single day. It's just
Mhm.
you don't like solving problems, this is not the business to be in. But if we know that's the case, right, we need to approach them dispassionately. We expect they're going to arise. We're going to have a conversation about them. We're going to talk about the options, and then we're going to move forward with a resolution for them. But that all should be driven by the contractor, with the homeowner simply, providing input and responding.
Gotcha. Okay, so our next slide, I think it perfectly describes the remodeling process. And it's a little scary, like any roller coaster ride. And you had made, when we were talking, you talk about it's disruptive to your house. And so what should a homeowner expect regarding the ups and downs of this process?
Well, I actually, we chuckle about this graph, but it's an incredibly useful graph because it is so spot on for almost every project. And I would suggest share with you that even when I've remodeled my own homes, this is what we go through. Like, my wife loves me in the beginning, and then she gets tired of it, and then
Yeah.
and then some progress, and then how long is this going to take, right? It's just because it disrupts our home, and that's where we want to have peace, right? So again, if everybody goes in with a proper expectation, that there's a lot of emotion that goes into these, right? And when you're living through it, you are going to have emotional cycles. There's going to be times where you're really excited about it. There's going to be times where you just can't believe. Like, everybody tell you the worst is when it's drywall stage and drywall
Yeah,
standing, right?
so dusty.
Um, but it just, we as kind of humorous as this is, it's actually a very accurate tracking of how most people experience a project, even when it's going spot on. And it has much more to do with just the fact that your home is disrupted. And you're trying to stay positive, and then you just get a little worn out, and then you get excited because there's some, the cabinets are going in and that type of thing, and your mood starts to rise. But just understand, this is not HGTV where everybody's smiling and
Yeah,
it's a weekend to
right.
do and it's fantastic. And this is a pretty good commitment to go through a major remodel. But when it's well planned, when it's well executed, when you've gotten what you expected, the payoff, you forget about that. You forget about the construction period really quickly when you're enjoying the new space.
It's a little bit like childbirth, huh?
Well, I can't speak to that.
I know. I'm just, it's when you're in the middle of it, you're like, I'm never doing this again. And of course, at the end, you have this wonderful gift. So um, that's, I think, again, when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I could see that this roller coaster, and it impacts the contractor, right? Because they're dealing with the homeowner at the low periods. The homeowner's not happy with you, and they're making your life harder as well.
So it's interesting because we really encourage the homeowners, look, when you're bothered, just if you share it with us and we can do something about it, we're going to do something about it. If we can't, we'll tell you that honestly, and we'll try to get through that piece as quickly as possible. But if you don't communicate, like, we don't know, right? And what often happens
Right.
is, because most people are just really decent people, is they don't want to seem like they're nagging. So one little thing happens, and then another little thing, and another, and a bunch of little things that if they had said something like, hey, I don't want the guys smoking on the deck, or whatever that might happen to be, right? I'd rather they park down there and not block my neighbor's drive, right? So if you tell your contractor those things, most of them are just going to want to accommodate you to make you happy. If you don't tell them, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little things that in and of themselves are not much, but what happens is the homeowner starts to just kind of internalize all of this.
Right,
And then,
right.
and then the fifth little thing happens, and they blow up, and the contractor's kind of left like, I had no idea you were so upset, and
Right.
then the homeowner recounts all those other little things which were never communicated to the contractor. So I would say that if you want a chance at a good project, or to improve the chances of a good project, communicate honestly and respectfully with your contractor about little things that may be irritating you during the project. And if they can do something about it, they will. And if they can't, they're just going to acknowledge that for you, and and make their best effort to move past that as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. I'm checking out the chat box here to see if we have any other questions. I don't see any. If anyone's got any questions for Matt, now's the time. You've got an expert in this topic. You can ask any questions that they may have. You may have. While we're waiting for any questions, let's just kind of wrap up. Key things to remember: plan your work. And work the plan. Select a contractor that you trust. You're going to be living with that contractor, really, right? They're in your house, and you want to make sure it's someone that you trust and that you can communicate with and have open conversation. And don't take shortcuts, because in the long run, they're going to cost you more money. They're going to delay the project. And shortcuts may not end up giving you what you wanted, what you thought you were going to get. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I know that sort of the conventional wisdom is, put this out to 5 contractors and get bids, and then, throw out the low one and decide on somebody in the middle. I honestly think that really approaches contracting from, again, a commodity level. There is so much more that goes into the price of a project than just the labor and materials. It goes back to you just need to measure what level of service you're getting from your contractors and what level of experience, and match it to what you want and you expect. Just like in any trade or in any profession, right? An attorney that's worth $500 an hour isn't going to charge 2, and an attorney that's worth $100 an hour isn't going to get 5, right? There's a difference in service. And so as a homeowner, you need to kind of really identify what is the experience you're looking for, the overall experience, and find the contractors who will provide you with that level of service, because a price is not a price, these are not, again, as you made a great example, it's not a gallon of milk, right? There's so much more to it than just the price. And what I'm suggesting is that you buy value and not price, and make sure that you're getting the value you want. And honestly, the contractors with more capacity and more organization and more systems and more experience and more team members are going to have the potential to provide a better process and experience, but it's going to come at a higher cost than, let's say, the contractor who's actually putting on the tool belt and doing the work himself.
Mm-hmm.
Either one is right or wrong. It's just what does the contractor's level of service and the experience he provides match what you want from your project.
Okay, great advice, Matt. Thank you so much. There's no other questions. Let me just check here again. Me looking in this chat box is a challenge. Okay, no, so I think we're good. No questions. So this wraps up today's workshop. Again, thank you, Matt of Matthew Bowe Design and Build. You can go to Matt's website, and they've got some great stories there. I actually really enjoy your website. So I don't know who designed it, but they did an excellent job. Just so everyone knows, it will be a recording of this workshop, so that if you weren't able to stay on the whole time today, or if you know someone who's going to be engaging in a remodeling project, you can share the link, and it's there on the screen. If you go to our homepage, you can also get to this workshop and a variety. We've been doing these now for several months, lots of different topics. I'm sure you could go there, less than 30 minutes usually, and find something that will enrich your life and your understanding of a variety of processes. So that is all we have for today. And we were here next week. We'll be back at 2 o'clock on Thursday with the workshop, Home Buying Do's and Don'ts from Your Neighborhood Realtor. So that promises to be another great session. Again, thank you, Matt, for sharing your expertise. And we're signing off. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Therese. Bye all.
Bye.